All right, everybody, we are back on another episode of the Navs Effect. Now, today is going to be a little bit of, shall we say, quick hitters for each UAAP team as we review where each squad stands in this. It's not exactly a mid-season break because we're past the mid-season of the UAAP Season 85 Men's Basketball Tournament. However, it's still early in the first round. Most teams have played two. I don't think teams have played 3 games yet, even. I'll have to double check. But teams have played 2 games. Maybe, well, UP's 9. Yes, so UP has played 10 games, 3 games in the second round. But we are currently on a break from UAP basketball so that the Philippine basketball team can concentrate on the Philippine national team's current competition where they are facing opponents for the FIBA Asian qualifiers to the World Cup. They are currently in Jordan, and as we're recording this, they're a few hours away from playing their second game. But this is a good opportunity for us to look at the UAP teams, where they stand, and maybe picture how the Final Four is going to be in a few weeks because that's coming quickly. And joining me to do that are Enzo and Phim of Maroon Talk. They are a podcast also locally proud here in the Philippines. They cover UP Maroons basketball, UP sports. They're also active, I believe, on Twitter during the games. And I'm sure if you're a UP fan or you're following the UP Fighting Maroons, you've come across these two guys somewhere. Before we start, how are both of you doing today?
All good, Naveen. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
It's a
My
great
pleasure.
weekend. Great weekend. Great sprint for F1 in Brazil. I just saw the replay right before we started recording, so it was
That was a
fun.
crazy sprint, man. That was a crazy sprint.
Right, right. So as we're recording this, I kind of have like cold shivers right now. I think because I'm over caffeinated and I lack sleep. And one of the reasons is because I did stay up to watch that sprint. And you know what? It was worth it to see Max Verstappen get overtaken not once, not twice, but 3 times. I mean, look, he's already the champion. He's already, he should be a one-time champion in my opinion. But he is a
Ooh.
two-time champion now. And you know what? Let's have like a great final 2 races to the season. But anyway, we're not here to talk about F1. Go Lewis. But we are here to talk about UAP basketball. So the UP Maroons. Let's start with them. And this is a team both of you are familiar with. They stand atop the standings at 9-1. On the last episode of my podcast, I actually had Mr. Henry Galinato on, and based from the conversation I had with him, it wasn't overconfidence, but it seemed clear in his voice and his demeanor, which I think represents the team overall, that they just feel confident in how they're performing right now on both ends of the floor. They are the deepest team in the UAAP. I don't think that's a question at this point. And they know that because it seems like they trust each other. I was watching that UP Adamson game, and as UP was dominating that contest, what came to my mind immediately was how the second unit of the team, so this is Lucero, this is Galinato, Cyril Gonzalez has taken that other spot as of late, JD Kagulangan has returned, and Harold Alarcon. That's a 5-man unit that can compete with any starting unit, I think, in the UAP. And that's the second unit for UP. So in just a microcosm, that shows like how deep the squad is and why I think at this point they're the favorites to win the championship once again. And I'm sure you both agree with me.
First of all, a great episode, by the way, by Naveen on that Henry feature. Talking about that second unit, it was arguably the first unit back in season 84. We had Mai Mai and Harold usually start most of the games in season 84. And now it's just really puzzling to see them on the second unit for season 85. But talking about Henry's mindset, it's very evident of how the culture Coach Gold has been placing in this team. So, I mean, we all know how season 82 went, wherein it was just a bunch of superstars grouped together, and it was totally different in terms of chemistry, in terms of dynamics, and it showed on the court.
Hmm.
So this time, since season 84, we get to see how much of a team, literally and figuratively, the Maroons have been playing. So it's just nice to see team basketball wherein anybody from the bench can step up and even be player of the game. This is how sided and how Malik has been doing the past 2 games.
Right.
Yeah.
Go for it, Enzo.
You mentioned the bench of the team, and I said this in one of our previous episodes that UP is in such a privileged position to have this a really deep bench, a bench that could rival other teams starting fives, and for different players to be stepping up every game, especially with the absence of JD Kagulangan to injury. Carl Tamayo's recent spell with his sprained ankle, which I think he's still feeling the effects of. And everyone's been stepping up. Henry's been stepping up. Malik has been stepping up. Cyril Gonzalez had a very big game a few games ago. And that next man up mentality has really been doing wonders to the team. And that's why we're atop the standings at 9-1. Yeah, despite having these key pieces hurt, injured, missing for a good chunk of the season.
I'm looking at the stats now, and a few things stand out to me. One, so UP now leads the league in points per game at 79.2, but they're also leading the league in rebounding. Or sorry, no, they lead the league in defensive rebounds per game, 31.9. So they're not always allowing offensive rebounds. So they're limiting opponents to one shot per possession, maybe two shots from time to time, but they're getting the stops that they need and they're scoring the ball. So most of the time, that means they get to control the pace of the game. Here's another impressive stat. They're leading the UAAP right now in field goal shooting, 43.1%. As of now, they're the only team in the UAAP to be averaging above 40% from the field. The only weakness truly are the turnovers, but they're playing with fast
Yeah.
pace, they're getting multiple possessions, and they are rebounding the ball. So what you have is a team that is composed of a lot of individual talents. Like Henry is playing off the bench, but he could average like 15-9, 15-8 for another UAP team if he was starting. Zave, we know what Zave can do, and we know that they have a lot of blue chippers. But Coach Gold and that staff, which includes Coach Tom Chua, who is a great defensive coordinator, by the way. I think one day Coach Tom will be a great head coach for a college team someday in the future. But back to UP now, they're shooting the ball so well. There's a lot of individual talents, and they're playing together as a team. Not only are they playing together as a team, they're running a lot of like really nice sets as well. Double drag screens, small guy setting a back pick for the big guy, Malik distributing on the top of the key. And so in the NBA, when I watch the NBA, the team I follow the most is the Miami Heat. And one of the pros of the team or their strengths is that they have a big guy in Bam who can distribute from the top of the key. And when you have a big man who can distribute for teammates at the top of the key, that takes the other big man away from the paint and
Yes.
gives your team the avenue for the wings, the forwards, the guards, especially if they have a size advantage to get to the rim and to score. And that's why you see Malik's assist numbers are pretty good from time to time. And he's a reliable distributor of the basketball. He has the height, he has the length, he can see over the top of arms. And when you've got someone like Malik to distribute, that makes life easier for Carl to cut to the rim, for Zave to get to the rim, for the shooters to get good looks. There are a bunch of players in this UP team that I would call Swiss Army knives, in the sense that they can do so many things on the court on both ends, and they're putting it all together. And what you have is a team that looks really hard to beat right now.
Yeah, you actually summarize it perfectly. We're number one in defensive rebounding, but the only problem really is turnovers. So how does this come to play? This is how much we're missing Mai at 100%. Usually Terence Fertea still playing amazing this season. Mostly gets a starting job for the point guard role. But he's really a two guard since high school, but he's stepping up right now and being that court general that we all need.
Mm-mm.
But that's how the turnovers come up mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, mentioning Malik, everything you mentioned were That's Malik now for us. But another factor that I've been seeing with Malik right now is he actually has a good defensive, whether it be blocks or steals. It's like he averages, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 steals per game. So how big is that as a big man, as a starting center for your team? Not only contributing offensively but defensively, not just with blocks and rebounds only. But that's another factor that's really striking me right now with Malik Diouf. So I'm really thankful we have him on our team.
Right. So I'm looking at the
Yeah.
stats now. Malik's average is 11.2 points per game, 10 rebounds a game, 2.6 assists a game, 1.6 steals a game, 1.6 blocks a game. He leads the team in steals and blocks. He's averaging 1.8 turnovers, but that's actually less when you compare to Fortea, who's at 3.9, and Carlin Zav at least 2 per game. And what I like about Malik too is he's only averaging 2.9 fouls a game. That means he's
Yeah,
defending without fouling. He's staying on the court. And now part of that is also because Coach Gold has a good second unit, so he doesn't play so many minutes and doesn't rack up a lot of fouls. But staying away from foul trouble means you can rely on him late in the game to protect the rim, to make stops. He's at 59% from the field. His free throw is 66.7. That's nitpicking na if you want to point that out. But
Yep.
everything else, he's been great. And just back to some numbers here, UP leads the UAAP in terms of 3-point shooting of opponents. Opponents of the Fighting Maroons are shooting just 22.9% from downtown. The next team on that list is Ateneo. They're limiting opponents at 24.2% from downtown. Next team on that list, NU, 25.1% from downtown. Now, Ateneo, NU, UP, not in that order exactly, just happen to be the three best teams in the UAAP right now, standings wise. And I think it's not a coincidence they're leading the league in terms of 3-point shooting defended. So what does that tell me? Top of my mind, that goes to show that these teams know how to protect the rim. Let opponents beat them from outside. And college shooters aren't exactly as on point yet as pros
Yep.
when it comes to 3-point shooting. So you can live and die with the three a little bit. But they're defending the 3-pointers well, they're rebounding the ball, and they're shooting it effectively. And UP just seems to have all the tools right now.
Yeah. I think UP really is the team to beat. Objectively speaking, not just because we're in a UP podcast, both of us, but the championship would really go through UP. There's no team, I think, that can match UP in all of these categories: offense, defense, rebounding, depth, shooting, even. Maybe UP doesn't have a perfect, team. It doesn't have a team that would check every single box, but it has the team that ticks most of the boxes,
Right.
the most out of the other teams. And that's what makes this team tough to beat this year.
And you can see it also, I think, in the chemistry of the team. So I like looking at body language when I watch basketball, especially when I watch teams throughout a few weeks. We'll get to like an example of the opposite later when we talk about LaSalle. But then when I look at UP, I'm seeing a team that's together. I'm seeing a team that is joking around. They're playing light. And, well, I can't go into detail, but during the Ateneo game, it went to overtime, right? UP
Yep.
had the lead in the fourth quarter. They blew it, and Padregal almost beat them at the buzzer, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And going to the benches, let's just say there was a confidence level in that UP team where they knew they were going to win that game. And they played like it in overtime. They beat Ateneo physically and mentally in OT. They outplayed them, and right now it looks like it's gonna come down to that for me. Ateneo versus UP in the finals. But also you can't discount NU yet. So that brings me to my next question. Who do you guys think is the second best team in the UAAP right now? Is it Ateneo or is it NU?
I would still say Ateneo. I mean, considering all the factors that's happening with them throughout the season. I mean, seeing them in preseason, it was a totally different Ateneo side that we've been seeing since 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody really knew how they would look like after the Mambuyaks, after the Tios, after those players came off already. So
Right.
but then again, you still have Coach Tab Baldwin at the helm which has so much up his sleeves. That's why I really believe it's still Ateneo. Talking about NU, actually, shout out to Ryan Alba. I was actually talking to him about this particular NU squad. I asked him what he thought of the NU offense and how they're making it work. And surprisingly, what he told me was that they actually aren't. They're not making stuff work. It's mostly a Baklaan Steve Nash led offense wherein he
Mm-hmm.
try to create and just the others try to score. What's
Right.
making them successful right now is, as Naveen mentioned earlier, is their defense. So being an athletic, a strong defensive team can get you places talaga in the UAAP. So this is how they've been beating teams. This is how they've been being consistent, at least when it comes to their form. So to answer David's question, should be Ateneo still for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go for it, Enzo.
for me as well, it's still Ateneo, but there's a chance NU can take that second best team label from them, because I think NU is playing with less pressure right now on their shoulders. I mean, preseason, no one really expected NU to be at this position. We were even talking about, will they make it to the Final Four or not? And for them to find themselves here in this spot when no one really is expecting them to be here, I think they will be playing more confidently, more freely, as compared to Ateneo, which is expected to be in the Final Four, to be in this position, although they're not the Ateneo of old where they dominate the rest of the league by 20 points in every game. They're undefeated and, on top of the standings. Now they're not there. There's more pressure on their shoulders, basically. But yun nga, like Phim said, they have Tab Baldwin. They
Mm.
have that great system of theirs that has been around for so long. And yeah, because of that, Ateneo still has the edge. But NU will give them a run for their money, definitely.
One of the reasons why I think Ateneo should still be considered a legitimate threat to be champion is because they are dominating the rebounding against most of their opponents they face. They lead the league in rebounding, in fact. Now, I'm looking at the stats here. So they lead the league in rebounding. A lot of the rebounds come from the offensive end as well, which means second chance points, which means putbacks for Kwame, 3-point shots outside when the defense is broken down. They're shooting 39.5% right now, which is pretty much close to NU's 39.6 for second in the league. So even if the NU might not have, let's say, the explosive scores, they're still finding ways to score efficiently, at least for college basketball standards. And with Ateneo, that's something that they both have in common. Where Ateneo struggles a bit, they have to improve their free throw shooting. They're only at 65.9%, but they still have the profile of a team that's really good defensively. And when you have a team that is good on defense, you have a chance to beat anyone on any day. Another thing about the Blue Eagles I want to mention is, so before their last game against LaSalle, I got to have a short conversation with Coach Tab. And he didn't exactly say it, but he hinted that, they might be trying some new concepts in that game against LaSalle. And true enough, it felt like there was a different Ateneo team. Now, part of that is maybe because they were facing a LaSalle team that is just, I don't know what they are at this point. They're kind of broken. They're trying to patch things up together, but they're really off. But I saw a lot more great looks from outside, a lot more off-ball movement compared to the Fort Ski heavy plays from the weeks prior. And there's a lot more off-ball motion to get guys open, lead to corner three-pointers. At the same time, too, there was a premium in stopping transition that I saw the Blue Eagles do against LaSalle, which was particularly effective because you were facing a team in the Green Archers that got most of their points from transition. I think what we're going to see the rest of the way is an Ateneo squad that's comfortable playing half-court basketball. They're going to get
Mhm.
out and run when they can because they do have long, talented wings, athletes. But even if the game goes down to half court, they're comfortable because they know Kwame is going to get you an offensive rebound every 2 or 3 possessions. They know that they have a lot of shooters. Now, you can live by the three, you can die by the three-pointer. But if they're living by the three, they're dangerous. And one more thing you should note when it comes to the Blue Eagles is just how big they are. You have Kwame at center, and then you can play him with Balungay, who's long, who's lean, who's athletic. You have someone like Kuhn who can handle the ball, but he's long, lean, and not super athletic, but he can get out and run as well. Andrade is not exactly the tallest guy, but he is a little hefty. So there's size there, and he's a solid defender. And then you can play him with Dave as well. And Fortsky might not be the tallest guy, but he can stretch the floor out just from his shooting alone. So you have like a spaced out offense that can do really well once the ball starts swinging. And then you have a center who's your catalyst on both ends of the floor. Now, Kwame's knee is something I would watch out for the rest of the season. That's not to say that it's gonna cost Ateneo a chance at the championship, but that knee's not 100%. I'm just gonna put it there right now. Like, it's not exactly in the condition where you could put a lot of effort, and that's why he's not practicing. That's why he's sitting out a lot of these practice sessions to keep the knee fresh for game time. So how will that hold up the rest of the way? Take note, he's also with the Gilas team right now, so he's not exactly like resting. Now, when it comes to NU, they don't have, like I said, a lot of like explosive firepower, and they still kind of need to find that pecking order in late game situations of who do we give the ball to create. Like, is it Baclan? Is it Enriquez? Is it your turn? My turn? Baclan and Enriquez are talented, trustworthy players, but they're in their like first and second year respectively. So some people might have questions about how they will handle the offense late in the game when it's the Final Four or maybe the finals. What I do like about NU is, like Ateneo, they have a lot of wings who I trust to make shots from the mid-range, at least. John Lloyd Clemente is inconsistent, but he can give you like 15 points some games. Patrick Yu, that mid-range jumper, is super reliable. I like Minerva. I like Malonzo. Omar John has been playing well. They're similar to Ateneo for me in the sense that they can rebound the ball, they're good on defense, and they have long, trusty players on offense to get you buckets when they need them. Not to mention 2 point guards who know how to run the show.
Talking about that NU Ateneo matchup, I mean, every time you hear a Ange Kwame and a Fortsky Padrigal score just 2 points in one game, easy. So, I mean, like, I've been hearing some stuff that this Ateneo team is probably the shallowest bench they have seen in recent years. But then again, if you think about it, those guys on the bench can still be contributing good numbers in any given day.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Chris Kuhn, they also have a Paulie Garcia who's waiting to just pop out and explode and show his. We know he has potential. That's why he's in the team. So, I mean, same with NU. We saw a Manansala player of the game performance a few games ago, and who would have thought that he would be able to score all those points?
Right.
Them to beat Ateneo. I mean, take out UP out of the picture. You still have a strong NU and Ateneo side whose potential is just up there. At any given day, they can beat any team convincingly. So it's still, for me, it's just still up in the air who's going to be. Even UP, nothing's for sure for UP right now. Still, we have like what 4 games left. So still anybody's ball game for me. Not considering UP a shoe in the final. Oh, in the final for yes. In the finals, not really.
So what concerns me also about NU is they're shooting only 24% from 3-point range this season, which is second to last in the UAAP. And when I think about that, the first thought that comes to my mind is they should really make it a point to get the twice to beat seed, talking about the Bulldogs. Because if your 3-point shooting is inconsistent like that, all it takes is one bad quarter, one bad half, and suddenly you're facing a 10-point deficit in the third quarter against an Ateneo team where the crowd is rabid and ready to explode. And you're facing a twice to win disadvantage. Then that's trouble. So it's a good thing that NU has already defeated Ateneo in the second round. So important reminder here, if 2 and 3 are tied in the standings, it's not going to be a quotient tiebreaker. It's going to be a virtual best of 3. So if you're NU and you're tied at 2-3, because I'm assuming UP is gonna be number one in the standings. They only have one loss. They have a good cushion. So if you're NU and you're tied with Ateneo for 2-3 in the standings, and you're in a best of three rather than a twice to win disadvantage, you might be able to survive with having that one game where your 3-point shot isn't going in, because you're also going to have that one game where your defense steps up and makes plays and you get enough on offense to get by. But I think it's super important for them, and they should make it really a point when the season comes back to get the twice to beat advantage, put the pressure on Ateneo. Because take note, Ateneo still has to play UP, right? Ateneo still has to play UP, and that's not an easy win. NU has already faced Ateneo and UP. So now they just have to take care of business. And if they take care of business the rest of the way, no more slip ups, no more of those disappointing losses to FEU, then you're guaranteed at least a best of three series in the final four. And that's where NU needs to be. Hi, everybody. We're just taking a quick break from the podcast because I want to share about a local brand that I am collaborating with known as Whale Nutrition Co. Now, they are a supplement brand that will enhance your workouts, your fitness, your lifestyle, your mental well-being. They're proudly local. Ingredients are sourced globally, but they are locally produced and packed. They're FDA approved and loved with thousands of reviews on Shopee, Lazada, Beauty Manila, and other outlets. You can check those reviews for yourself. They have all natural protein powders sweetened with stevia, which is a plant-based sweetener, which is a better option for sugar if you're counting calories or looking to be healthier. And they have more than 20 flavors of protein powders to choose from. My personal favorites, the clean caramel, the mocha java, and the salted chocolate. But it's not just protein powders that they have. They also have BCA ACE to help you out with amino acids. They have vegan protein options, whey isolate protein options, creatine. They also have shakers and other merchandise to make you feel like you're part of the whale family. It's pretty awesome if you ask me. Now, here's some great news. They also announced recently that their Just Ube milk flavor is back in stock. This was really popular when it first came out, went out of stock real quick, but now that it's back in stock, do grab the opportunity to try it because it's delicious. I tried it for myself the last few days and I was absolutely thrilled. A lot of people, they say that after their workouts, they're not exactly excited to have protein because it's not yummy, protein shakes. Well, I'm telling you, whale stuff is absolutely delicious and I'm excited to do my workouts in large part because I know after my workouts, I'm going to get to try their stuff, their items, which are, like I mentioned, just great. So do check them out. And I have another set of good news for my listeners. Listeners of this podcast will get 5% off on their whale orders by using the promo code TNE. Again, that's letter T, letter N, letter E. That stands for the Navs effect. Go to their website, that's whale.co, WHEYL.co, and when you're in the checkout and you enter promo code TNE, you will get 5% off your order. Make sure to visit them on social media as well if you want to learn more about them. I will put links of that on the description box of this podcast or YouTube, wherever you are watching, and get the chance to experience whale for yourself. All right, now back to the episode. Needs to be.
Talking about the schedule. NU has UE, UST, LaSalle, and Adamson up next. So in terms of that type of comparison, in terms of the schedule, they have an easier, I would say, easier route to the twice to beat compared to Ateneo.
Right.
So yeah, that's actually a very good point.
So
It's
Ateneo
really
is
now-
Ateneo is facing UST, FEU, UE, and UP.
Yeah.
So the
So-
UP game is the one to look out for. My question there is, since that's the last game of the second round, let's say UP has already clinched the number one seed and they don't really have a lot to play for. Do they rest their guys for that game? Or do they go full force knowing it's an intense game, but also knowing it's a game against Ateneo? And we know from last season that game, that final contest in the second round before the final four, that can go a long way in determining the mindset. I mean, I don't think UP wins the championship last season if they don't win that second round game against Ateneo, because They got off that mental hurdle, right? And right now, UP has won 4 out of the last 5 games against Ateneo. So do you
Yep.
want to give Ateneo that mental advantage of knowing they beat you, even if it's a no-bearing game for you?
I don't know, knowing the guys in UP, I think they have too much pride in them to just load manage the
Load
last
manage,
game,
yes,
you
yes.
know. But also considering the state of the health of the team, Carl, JD, and whoever others could be, nursing some pains and injuries right now. I also wouldn't be surprised if they do take a rest for that
Mm.
last game. Hindi naman
Or
siguro,
limited minutes.
yeah, limited minutes,
Or limited minutes for the main guys. You play the second
yeah,
unit. Tapos if close game, ipasok mo ulit yung main guys mo.
yeah, that could happen. I don't see a situation where they totally rest. At most, yeah, maybe play Carl 20 minutes. Play, the starters at most 24 minutes.
Mm-mm.
Something like that.
But yeah,
Exactly.
that is a good point, Naveen. I mean, heading down that part of the season, that could be a possibility.
Right.
I mean, winning 4 out of 5 times over Ateneo is quite unheard of, especially during our time in Enzo.
Yes. Yes.
uh, yeah, but I don't think they just give up easily.
You want to know what else is crazy? If I'm not mistaken, I think UP is 9-1 versus LaSalle in their last 10 games, dating back
I'd be
to
kidding, man.
20. Wait, so 2018, you guys sweep LaSalle 2-0. 2019 sweep LaSalle again 4-0. Last season 84 elimination round swept LaSalle 6-0. Final four 7-1.
But
Won the
yeah,
first game of the season. So 8-1 in the last 9 games. But if you also count the 2017 season, 1-1 yun. So that becomes 9-2. 9-2 in the last 11 games. UP has won 9 out of their last 11. And that's why I'm looking forward to this UP LaSalle game for many reasons. One, UP LaSalle, always interesting.
Yep.
Personally, that's when I bring out my whiskey, pag UP versus LaSalle. After the game, of course, after I'm done with work. This might be the 1-4 matchup, a second straight Final Four series. And if you're UP, you can't blow that game against LaSalle. Not saying that UP would, but they need to win that game. Now they're facing FEU next. FEU is no easy challenge, but they should get the job done against FEU. That game against LaSalle, if they lose that, they'd be 10-2. And let's say Ateneo and you win, they'd only have 3 losses. And Ateneo and NU's mind, they're like, okay, there's a chance here to get the 1 seed. Diba? And that's why this UP, and also LaSalle's gonna be in desperation mode every game from here on out. So that's a good segue for my next question. If UP is the number 1 seed, which I think will happen, and you're
Mhm.
both clearly invested in the Maroons, what do you think about that 1-4 matchup? And who do you think will be in that 4 that UP will face? Who should UP want to face? And who should UP not want to face in that 1-4 matchup?
damn,
Hmm.
man.
Tough
But
question.
at this stage, if you're gonna check who's gonna be there right now, UE is actually there. You still can't count out UE. FU still in the running. Similar with LaSalle and Ateneo and NU. So talking about the 1-4 matchup, it's good that Coach Gold is not the type of coach who would try to select who they're gonna be facing up in the Final Four. But talking about the results from the season, I would avoid NU.
Mm.
I would
Mm.
avoid NU if ever they get to be the fourth seed.
But let's say NU and Ateneo are locked in 2 and 3
2 and 3,
because they both only have 3 losses each and they don't have the hardest schedule moving forward. Yeah, who is that number 4 going to be? That's a good question. That's a good race. And by the way, again, take note, if there's a tie for 4, 5, even 4, 5, 6, puro knockout matches yan. It will be 6 versus 5, then 5 versus 4, which means UP might get a long rest also, or some might say rust. Diba? So there's so many intriguing storylines about it.
correct. Well, talking about those three teams, Adams and FE, for me, the easiest route would be UE, I would say. We had a
Oh,
dog
talaga.
against them. So if we're just talking about the 1-4, I mean, I'd go for UP.
I agree with that just because I think UP's size advantage would overwhelm UE.
I disagree because I think between Adamson, UE, and FEU, I think UE has the most potential for a big offensive game
3-point
from
shooting.
their 3-point shooting,
Yeah,
which I think
UE leads the
Adam,
league in
yeah,
3-point shooting, 31.5%, and free throw shooting, 70%.
yeah. So for that reason, UE is the team that I do not want to face for at number 4. I think Adamson would be
Team you'd want to face.
the easier team to face for the 1-4 matchup for UP.
Interesting. So here's why I think UP would want to face UE. UE's opponents are shooting 41.5% against them. And UP leads the league in free field goal shooting. And I think part of the reason why UE is giving up a high percentage is because they don't have a foreign student athlete to protect the paint. Yeah, I think Malik, Carl, and Zave and Henry would feast against the front line. Although I do agree with Enzo's statement na UE can get hot, they can catch fire and win a game just from 3-point shooting alone. My question is, can they get hot 2 straight games and win that way?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they won't, but as a UP fan, I don't want that parang heart attack scenario where we lose the first game because they got hot, and then we're going to game 2 in a must-win game. Now
And then
anything can happen.
they hit the first 3 3-pointers, suddenly the score's 9-2, and then
Yeah,
suddenly
yeah. I don't want to put myself in that position.
This is like 84, man.
Well, let me ask you both something. Would you want to face a healthy, complete LaSalle squad in the 1-4 matchup?
I mean, I wouldn't want it, but I'd love to watch that game.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, during the first game of the season, matching up against LaSalle, I was actually expecting a LaSalle win.
It looked like it for a while, and then LaSalle did a LaSalle.
I mean, I had them winning the championship for this season, actually. So after that hard, impressive preseason they had with the D League and all, I really had them as my bet to win 85. So, but then again, things happen during the season. So, and right now, LaSalle is where they are right now. So yeah, I mean, if it were a healthy LaSalle side that we'll be facing in the final, so be it. And if we have to win that game against us, if we have to get to the finals going through LaSalle, I mean, that would be the best vindication, I would say, from season 84.
Right. Now, just a quick note here. I think Adams and UP would be an entertaining matchup just because those two teams like playing each other.
Yep.
Assuming, of course, that Adamson is healthy, we still don't know when Jerome is gonna come back. Now, LaSalle, you were right. Na it wasn't only you actually who thought LaSalle would win a championship. In fact, I was talking to a lot of people from UP who said LaSalle is the team that they're actually kind of concerned about because they were also in the up and coming, supposedly. But then the suspension to Nelly, the injury to Winston, guys in and out of the lineup, and there's just a lot going on. I was looking at the body language of the team after the Ateneo game, and it just did not look good. It didn't say, okay, this team is ready to go on a run, which they had to start doing like 2 games ago, but they didn't. Shoulders are slumped, heads are down, hands on the waist. Guys aren't exactly huddling with each other. And, there have been talks are the coaches making the right decisions? Personally, I like Coach Derek. I want to see him succeed with this team. But this is going to be an interesting next few weeks. In part, I think because Coach Derek signed a 3-year contract with LaSalle in 2019, and that contract is coming up at the end of this year. And at least when I asked for an official comment before the season, if there would be a renewal of that contract, I was told it's going to be based on the team's performance this season. Well, based on the current performance right now, they need to start winning some games. I think that's clear. I'm also going to say one thing, and this isn't me reporting or confirming anything. So anyone listening to this, please realize I'm only guessing here or speculating. I'm not reporting this, okay? I found it really interesting that the same night LaSalle loses to Ateneo. So I go on Instagram and I'm watching the stories of the players after the game. Kevin Kimbao posts a picture of him hugging Coach Tab Baldwin after the game. Okay? And the caption there reads, "It's an honor to go up against a great coach." Now, I could be mistaken, and it could be something as simple as Kevin just paying homage to a coach who he does know personally. He knows Coach Tab personally, but the timing just felt a little off. And I'm not taking that against Kevin. I'm not saying that's a bad look on Kembao. He is free to post whatever he wants. Players should not be, well, not all the time at least, but players should be able to post what they want on social media as long as it's responsible. And this was no harm, no foul. But I just found it quite interesting. I'm just going to leave it at that.
But this was a photo of the game. I mean, from the game.
This was the photo right after the game, when the
Yeah.
teams, the coaches and players like greet each other and there was like a hug. And that was the one he posted. I'm not saying it's something. I'm also not saying it's nothing. I mean, yeah.
I heard from somewhere as well that, but again, we have no clear evidence from it that it's championship or nothing for Coach Derek this season. So it could be something. It could be
Eh,
real. It could be
yeah.
not. So I mean, and basing from the 3-year contract, I mean that could be even the clincher for this one.
Yes, and he knew that naman also when he took the job that it was championship or nothing, as it's always been for LaSalle.
Mhm. Yeah.
But once again, it's going away from championship and leaning towards nothing. And that's why many LaSalle fans who trust me are not happy right now. They're not some I know some diehard alumni who have flat out just stopped watching the games
Oh
because
yeah.
and
Oof.
they told me straight up, they are disgusted with some of the performances. And now maybe they're just saying that because naging dramatic lang sila in the moment. It's after a loss when I talk to them. But I think some actually, maybe they watch, but they kind of watch without the excitement that they had early this season. And that's what I think hurts them the most. It's that the expectations were sky high before the season. And it came crashing down back to earth, like really tough and really rough.
Yeah, talking about body language, as you mentioned earlier, we could say that the easiest way to describe it is that the body language that the players have right now of those Green Archers is way different from how they were performing in the preseason. I mean, they went to the D League and freaking dominated that league. But now, I mean, yeah, the correct term that we could say actually, it's the team's broken for some reason, for whatever reason. But what's good is they still have actually time to fix it, and they're still in the
Right.
running. So it's on them if they want to win. It's on them if they just want to give up or what. But what's good about this is we still have time.
I think it's a scary proposition if LaSalle actually makes it to the Final Four and
Mm,
gets number 4. I mean, they're so low in the standings right now that if they make it to the Final Four, that means they would go on a big winning streak. That means heading into the
momentum.
Final Four, they would have momentum and they would be a team that's energized. They would be like UP in season 81
Mm,
when, yeah, they went on a long streak, clinched the Final Four, and made it to the finals because they had that momentum. They felt good about themselves, and for that reason, I think I don't want to face LaSalle in the first round. I don't want them to be number 4 because that's what it would take for them to get there. I don't want to face a team that's so hot, that's rolling, which LaSalle should be for them to make it there. Now, if they make it there, it means they have that.
just to add also, earlier we mentioned the schedule. Ateneo also still has Adamson, yung game na na-cancel from the first day of the second round. Although Ateneo seems to take care of business against Adamson. That's a good matchup for them. So I'm guessing that's a win. Now, here's LaSalle's remaining schedule. They have Adamson, who might be without Jerome Lastimosa and Magbuhos. See, right now, I'm not going to say any win is a sure win for LaSalle, but that's a game they should win if there's no Jerome Lastimosa and no Magbuhos. After Adamson, they have that game against UP. Then somewhere there's that makeup game against UST that they have. Then they face NU. And then they have a game against UE to end it. So it's every game is huge. You know, you start off that game against Adamson. Adamson's still fighting for their Final Four hopes. They're not gonna go down easily. UST should be a game that they should win, but again, who knows? That UP game is big. November 20, Sunday, 6:30 p.m., Mall of Asia Arena. UP versus LaSalle. And I'll tell you why that's big. If LaSalle is healthy and their lineup is complete and they find a way to close out the games that they haven't been able to close out, they're my pick to make it to the Final Four as the 4th seed. So if they do that, they make it to the 4th seed, they'll face UP in 1 versus 4. I think UP needs to shut the door on LaSalle in this November 20 game. And by shut the door, I mean win and beat them in a sense na UP proves that they have control of the game. Because if UP beats LaSalle again and does so in impressive fashion, even if LaSalle does make the 4th seed and faces UP in the 4 versus 1, UP comes in there with all the confidence and LaSalle is still coming in there thinking, okay, can we beat this guys this season? But let's say Deshaun Winston gets hot, Evan Nelly makes a few 3-pointers, Michael Phillips grabs a few offensive rebounds, and LaSalle beats UP, and then LaSalle uses that momentum to win their games and make the 4 seed. Suddenly, if you're UP, you're facing a team in the 1-4 matchup that has a lot of blue chip recruits. And if there's one quality about blue chip recruits is that these guys growing up, they're confident, they believe in themselves. Right now, they don't have, I think, that collective belief yet, the Green Archers. But if they build that in time for the Final Four, I'm not saying they will beat UP. I think UP would win that. But if you're UP, you want to face a team in the Final Four na matatalo mo kaagad in the first game. You don't want to
Yeah.
have that extra game where guys could get hurt or guys get tired. And you want that rest heading into the finals.
Yeah, correct. This UP LaSalle matchup should be a convincing win for the Maroons. It happened in season 84, if I'm not mistaken. First and second round were convincing wins, and the final four was totally different story. So if we're gonna go in that argument, we could still say that the final four will be a different story. Whether it be a good win, whether it be a UP win or a LaSalle win in this second round, we still can't say what's gonna happen if ever they do match up for 1 and 4. So thinking about the situations here, scenarios, it should be a convincing win over LaSalle in this one. Also with Ateneo, talking about UP. So we can't really slow down any point in the season onwards.
That's right. So if you're UP, you're 9-1 now, you're getting healthy, your team is starting to learn how to play together with the new parts, like Galinato to be specific, Cyril with the minutes. But you're in a little bit of a dangerous spot in the sense that you don't want to lose, God forbid, both the games against the Ateneo, but you don't even want to lose one of those games because you already beat NU in the second round. You already beat Adamson. I'm gonna assume they beat FEU. But again, like I said, we shouldn't really assume anything in the UAAP. But I think UP will win that. But even if you lose one of those games to Ateneo or LaSalle, you don't want that confidence in the back of their minds if you potentially face them in the Final Four.
Yeah, correct. Very true. That's why it's really dangerous at this part of the season to have major lapses, as I would say. So, I mean, really, if we're talking about peaking at the right time, this is actually how to peak at the right time. For great teams to achieve greatness, this is a perfect time to separate the good from the great. So, talagang no wasted days, no wasted practices, moving onwards to this, all the way to the end of the season.
And
Absolutely.
when you said they should win against LaSalle and Ateneo, so that those two schools will not have that confidence in the back of their minds. I think That's why it's important for UP to clinch the number one seed before the Ateneo game, so that if they decide to to rest their guys, to limit their minutes, and Ateneo beats them, and Ateneo knows that, oh, we beat a UP team that rested their guys. Na parang, if you're Ateneo, I'm not sure how much confidence you can get from that, knowing that, yeah, you beat this UP team, but they didn't really give their 100% effort. So, yeah, UP should, as early as possible, clinch the number one seed to have that, option open to them heading into the Ateneo game.
For sure. All right, let's just do a quick rundown of the remaining teams before we get to the second part of this podcast, which will be on Enzo and Phim's podcast, Maroon Talk. FEU, I like how they've been playing as of late. I think they're doing a better job of attacking the rim. No first round, parang maybe it was because LJ got hurt in the first game, but they didn't really have that penetrator who could set teammates up or get easy floaters near the rim. And opponents have been shooting really well against FEU from three. Part of that is because FEU's protecting the paint and allowing the 3-point shots. Their closeouts haven't been great, but I kind of expect that to normalize a bit moving forward. I just think that FEU kind of dug themselves too big of a hole. I'm not saying that there's no chance they won't get the 4 seed. They might make it as a 5 or 6 seed and make the playoff, but I think it's gonna be tough for them. The remaining schedule, sayang, they should have won that game against NU. They were leading na before the break.
They should have, yeah.
They needed that win. But the remaining schedule, UP, then they face Ateneo, and then they have Adamson, and then UST. So you're facing UP and Ateneo, arguably the two best teams right now, and teams still trying to clinch a twice to beat. And then you're facing Adamson. Jerome might be back by then, and they're trying to fight for their final 4 lives. So FEU needs like a mini miracle over this next few games. If they can win one of those UP Ateneo games, if they can win even just one, that's huge for them. Question is, can they? It's gonna be tough. And then Adamson, this injury to Jerome just comes at a really bad time. I know Coach Nash isn't the most popular guy right now when it comes to the UP fan base, but he's still a pretty good coach, so I wouldn't count them out. He has a good system usually. I just think it's going to be tough for them too. So they face LaSalle after the break, then they face UE, and then they face FEU, and then they have a game against Ateneo, and then they end against NU. So it's tough. It's going to be tough. UE, real quick, their schedule rest of the way. So they have NU, then they have Adamson, and then Ateneo, and then DLSU. Like we mentioned, UE, you can't really discount them. They're a good team. They can shoot. They don't give up against anyone. CJ Payawal has been playing so good as of late. With him and Villegas, you have two tall wings, power forward slash small forward. You can shoot and who hustles. They're long. Right now, I kind of give UE the second best chance from the remaining teams to make the final 4 next to LaSalle. I might even have them in the same level as LaSalle right now. They're dangerous. What really concerns me is just that they don't have a big, like a rim protector, and that's why the field goal shooting for opponents is so high. I think that might come back to bite them, but we'll see. If they get hot, all it takes is a few games. Before we get to the second part, quick predictions, guys. Who do you have as the 1 to 4 seeds? And who do you have meeting in the finals? We'll start with you, Phim.
Yeah, so we did this prediction actually on Maroon Talk as well. And honestly, since the early part of the season, I was already actually counting FEU out. For the sole reason that while I was watching them during preseason, even if Chuente wasn't there yet, I just couldn't see any type of consistency with the team. I mean, LJ, we all know that LJ, it's going to be LJ, Cyrus, and Sahonia who's going to be leading the team. But the one that really struck my attention was that Cyrus Torres wasn't making his shots. Whether it be in the UCBL and the Phil Oil, I mean, this isn't the Cyrus Torres we know. So for me, that pretty much summarized how the performance would be for this FU team for this season, and it's showing right now. So, but then again, you can't count them out. It's going to be crucial for them. Every game is going to be crucial, but then the next 2 games are going to be crucial for them. But unluckily, it's against UP and Ateneo. So if these two games, if they pass these two games up, or let's say they win these two games, I would still say that the remaining games after those games, after the first two games, it's not going to be up to them anymore. They have to be relying on other teams for them to make it to the Final Four at that point. So in terms of UE, the problem really is, as Naveen mentioned, if Gani Stevens sits on the bench, they don't really have a reliable big when it comes to protecting the paint, scoring in the paint, and that's the big caveat there. So I would still go for UP, NU, Ateneo, and Lasal for my final. And for the finals, it should be UP Ateneo, I would say.
Oh, interesting. Okay. The part three of the trilogy, that would be something. Enzo, how about you?
I think, well, not yeah, number one UP. I think number two would be Ateneo. When all is said and done, I think they'll overtake NU. Then number three would be NU. Number four would be, this is where it gets tricky because Adamson, UE, FEU, and even LaSalle all have a chance to make it in. But I think UE might squeak by those the three other teams. I think Adamson without Jerome Lastimosa is done. FEU had their issues for the season. They're on some kind of momentum, but I'm not sure they have it in them to fight for that fourth seed. Well, UE, I think they have their defensive issues, but I think they have a complete team. I mean, based on what they have, I don't think anyone's injured with them. They shouldn't have any problems with their team. All their weapons are there. The Paranadas, Payawal is there. Pagsanhan is there. They're the team that can get hot, and I think they can overcome their defensive issues and make it to the Final Four. I just think the other teams have issues which might be a little too late for them to fix this late in the season to make a run. So yeah, maybe UE can sneak by into the fourth seed.
Okay.
Final.
Interesting.
Finals, though.
Finals. UP. I'm rooting for NU.
Mm.
I'm rooting for a UP NU finals. I think I tweeted this after their game on the second round. I said I wouldn't mind 5 games of UP and NU in one season. It's great. There's fireworks. They have great teams, great offense, great defense, great coaching. Let's have more of it.
It's a budding rivalry, Naveen. I mean,
It is.
you
It is.
gotta see
For,
what's gonna happen.
for many reasons, not just on the basketball court. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
So I think UP will end up number one. My only question for them now is, are they gonna get there at 13-1 or 12-2? I think they either go undefeated the rest of the way or only have one loss. So I think number one is theirs. I think 2 and 3 will be a tie between NU and Ateneo. We're gonna have a best of 3 series. So technically it's a best of 3 because the first game determines who gets the twice to beat. But then when you look at it from a major picture, it's really a best of 3. Whoever wins the first game needs to win one more game. Whoever loses the first game needs to win 2 straight games. So there's that. I think number 4, I think we're also going to have a playoff for number 4. I think it's going to be LaSalle versus most likely UE, a 4 versus 5 playoff. Winner gets the 4th seed. And then we get UP LaSalle in the final 4. And then I think we get UP versus Ateneo part 3 in the finals. And that's going to be fireworks. But anyway, I will leave this podcast at that. Part 2 of this collaboration podcast, you guys can check it out at Maroon Talk. So technically, we'll see you guys in a bit.